Hello and welcome to Dungeon Geeks. My name is Ian and today we're going to be talking about the Player Handbook races of Dungeons and Dragons. So, in terms of races for Dungeons and Dragons, it's quite easy to get bogged down as to what is considered a race, what is considered a monster or a creature. So within the Players Handbook of Dungeons and Dragons, there is a list of races, which are, I suppose to say, the starter races. It will be easier to work with those than some of the more difficult ones later on in various other books. Now, races come with their own attributes and specialities. This should be considered standard throughout, given that every race is very slightly different. All it does is gives you the physical attributes of that particular race. To give you an example, a gnome would be considered slightly smarter and weaker than, for example, a dragonborn, who relies on strength and power and size. So, to break it down, what I'm going to be doing is giving you a list and a very brief intro to what the races are. But in the later videos, I'm going to be breaking each one down individually, doing an entire video on each one. And then after all of that, we're going to go through the classes, which will give you the type of player you want to play, whether it's a magic user or a brawler or whichever. So to start off with, you've got your dragonborns. Now these guys are half human, half dragon, normally around about 6 foot tall, massive scales, claws, and they also have a breath weapon, depending on which colour you go for. Next we have your dwarves. Now these are the stereotypical dwarfs from things like Lord of the Rings. In fact, you'll probably find that a lot of the reference material for Dungeons and Dragons comes from Lord of the Rings and other such fantasy media. Keeping on with the theme, elves. Now, elves, you think Legolas, you think that kind of wood elf. There's various other types, but that's the general elfishness that comes with the race. You next have your gnomes. Your gnomes are around about 4 foot, maybe 5 foot, depending on what your players want. There is a little bit of leeway with things like height. Gnomes are, like I say, said to be the more intelligent of the races. You then have your half-elves. Now, half-elves are a mixture of human and elf. So you get some of the good of the human and some of the good of the elves. There are downsides to each race as well, which we'll find out later on with these kind of things. I apologise about the cat, he can't help but annoy me. Half-orcs are again half human, half orc, known for their strength and their size, often quite intelligent as well, if one were to be considered that way. Halflings, or hobbits, these guys are the Lightfoots, the sneaky ones. Yeah, they're a good race to play with things like your rogues. Next you would have the humans. Now the humans are average in the game of Dungeons & Dragons. They basically get the average score, but seeing as we are human, they're quite easy to roleplay through. And lastly you have tiefling. Now tiefling is quite an interesting one because tiefling are technically half demon. So they get things like the fun tail to play with. They might have other attributes like horns, maybe even wings, depending on which variety you go with. To be honest, looking through the Player's Handbook is your best bet. There is a breakdown on each of them in turn, which, as I said, I will go through with you. But I think it depends on what kind of character you want to play. There are so many variations out there. Certainly within the extra books I'll be talking about much later, there are more races to look at. Some DMs will allow homebrew races where you can make your own up. It just depends on your dungeon master, and it depends on you as a player as to what exactly you want. The point of Dungeons and Dragons is that you can play as anyone you want to be. And I really think that in many ways this comes through. Now, I hope you've actually learned something instead of, just listening to my ramblings and wondering what the hell he's going on about. So, I'm going to close down and say thank you very much for watching. If you do like my video, then please give us a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to watch more of this. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later.